Hi there, and welcome to Naturally Recovering Autism. I am your host, Karen Thomas, and I want to thank you so much for being here and being a proactive parent and getting the resources that you need to let your child live their most fulfilling and independent life possible. When my own son was diagnosed with autism, I was told to drug him and try behavioral therapies, and there was nothing else that we could do for him but manage his symptoms the rest of his life. But I didn't want to do that. Fortunately, my background in craniosacral therapy of now 30 years let me know that the brain can and does heal, but I didn't know that much about autism. What I did know is that I didn't want to just mask the symptoms with dangerous drugs. I wanted to find the causes and work with them naturally. And fast forward, it took me a decade and a lot of time and effort, but today my son is no longer diagnosable with autism after being told it could not happen. So I'm here to share with you valuable resources to save you the time and some of the expense that I had to spend to figure it out, and to help you let your child lead to their best results possible. Every child's level of recovery is different, but we know that children who couldn't sleep through the night are sleeping now through the night and happily. Their immune systems are now strong where they were once sick all the time. Children who were nonverbal and their parents were told they could never speak are now speaking. Children who were getting D's and F's in school are getting A's and B's, and those that were so anxious all the time and couldn't sit still and were uncomfortable in their own bodies are now calm and happy and relaxed, and they're leading fulfilling and independent lives with friends. This is what we want for our kids. So I'm here to share the resources with you so that you can get the best results for your child, the best possible. And you can start that right now with my free download of the top 7 foods to eliminate beginning today, of the top foods that are the most inflammatory and toxic that are contributing to those physical and behavioral symptoms of autism that your child is having. They're making his life uncomfortable. So you can get that right now at naturallyrecoveringautism.com/7 foods. And feel free to share that with anybody you know who would be interested. And I will also link to it in today's show notes. There's, of course, a lot more than diet, but this is something you could start doing today that will begin to reduce those symptoms. And I'm happy to share everything I can with you. So right now, let's dive into today's episode.
Hey there, welcome back once again. I appreciate you being here. And today's episode, which is episode 200, will be on a topic that is very, very important for children with autism. We see a lot of digestive issues, a lot of anxiety, a lot of autoimmune stimulation, overstimulation, a lot of sleep disorders. And many of these can be triggered by, of course, all of the underlying co-infections and toxicity that have to be dealt with. But what happens is that it overstimulates something called the vagus nerve. So today we're going to be talking about the vagus nerve and autism, and I'm going to give you 5 ways to stimulate the vagus nerve for improved things like digestion, calming, and really overall better health. And I'm going to link to some studies and also some resources in today's episode. So I'm going to give you the link now, and I'll say it again later, but the show notes and the resources for today will be at naturallyrecoveringautism.com/200, 200. So first of all, what is low vagal tone, and why have so many studies linked it to people with autism spectrum disorders? So I'm going to help teach you the 5 ways you can, again, easily stimulate the vagus nerve at home and how it can help you and your child. Because remember, you have a lot of these same issues, and this heightened sense of fight or flight and anxiety we feel can get stuck in the on position. We've all felt it. And so what we have to do is calm the vagus nerve down. The vagus nerve is the longest cranial nerve in the body, branching out from the brain to different areas of the body. And it not only regulates gut physiology, but it's also involved in controlling the cardiovascular, respiratory, immune, digestive, and endocrine systems. It has a tremendous connection with our ability to stay calm. And this is because the vagus nerve is intimately connected with the parasympathetic nervous system. Children with autism commonly display symptoms of vagus nerve dysregulation, and resetting the vagus nerve can help to create what is called vagal calm in the body. The vagus nerve is important to address at the beginning of any detoxification protocol, since detoxifying is an additional stressor. The vagus nerve may need to be reset to optimize the autonomic nervous system to eliminate inappropriate fear responses, whether in fight or flight or in an immobility shutdown, because it's fight, flight, or freeze response. We've all seen this in other people, likely our children, and in ourselves. And it's very, very commonly also associated with heart arrhythmias. So if you notice that you're having strong heart palpitations or your child is, this can be part of the vagal nerve dysregulation. So neurodegeneration of the vagus nerve comes from intestinal disorders, environmental toxic exposure, co-infections, inflammation, or any physical or emotional trauma that cause continual stress in the body. The vagus nerve can get stuck in the fight or flight response again and create anxiety-like behaviors as well as depressive ones. It also has to do with our ability to connect with others. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit more later in this episode. But this is something we very see children with autism having difficulty in connecting with others. So there's some studies I'll be linking to also in today's show notes that I mentioned. And they show the vagus nerve serves as actually a bridge between the gut microbiota and the brain. So the microbiome in the gut, good or bad bacteria, both, that live in the gut and help us thrive and live, but also can get overgrown with bad things like candida and parasites, right? So all of these things, the good and the bad, get into the vagus nerve and travel to the brain. The vagus nerve is implicated in many studies, again, and being an underlying impact of the gut microbiota brain axis in behavior and neurodegenerative diseases. So to be directly impacted, again, by that microbiome, researchers have now found that the gut microbiota and the brain are inextricably linked due to substantial evidence. Okay, so this isn't hearsay, just so you know, because I know if this is new to you, it may sound a little odd, but yes, there is a connection between the gut things that are going on in the gut and the brain. You know, we talk about the gut brain, and they're calling the gut the second brain, so they have a direct connection. The gut microbiota brain axis, regarded as a bridge and link between the gut microbiota and the brain, can be achieved through the neuroanatomical pathway, such as the vagus nerve or the spinal cord, the neuroendocrine system, such as the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, and cytokines, as well as direct or indirect chemical pathways that may involve microbial metabolites and some specific neurotransmitters. Now, what this means to you in more layman's terms is that toxins and pathogens in the gut are migrating up to the brain using the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve has a lot of responsibilities, but when it's disrupted, it also causes uncontrollable anxiety, digestive issues, and respiratory problems, just to name a few. It can also definitely be implicated in sleep disorders. And it has been known to be implicated in seizures. It is the body's reaction to these pathogens and toxins that are actually causing the problems. Additionally, the vagus nerve is implicated as the major factor in the development of Crohn's or colitis. The vagus nerve is the pathway into the intestinal wall, causing these diseases to develop. Now, we have a lot of picky eating and hunger regulation issues in children with autism also. We know that food can, be, challenging for them. They might not have an appetite. There's also things like OCD or sensory issues, histamine sensitivity, a big one, and anxiety in general around food, which can be a developed response too. So again, we need to retrain. Parents often say that their child's not eating enough or cannot seem to get enough food and is constantly hungry. So I've talked in the past about neurotransmitters or brain messengers and how serotonin has to do with mood stability, sleep, and appetite satiety. So you're seeing the connection here, right? Serotonin is made in the gut and it has to transfer to the brain from there. If the gut isn't working properly, then serotonin can't be produced in adequate amounts and the brain is deprived of it. This is one of the reasons we see mood instability and heightened behaviors, problems with sleep, and then again, issues of appetite satiety. So, but however, just so you know, it's likely that it's been associated with the imbalance also of the vagus nerve. So these are all factored in, just so that you know, but we can as we're working on these underlying causes, because it's very important to work with the underlying causes, right? We never just want to work on a symptom because that's a surface level thing. We have to get underneath and find out what that root cause is and work with it. But as we're doing this, we can work on the vagus nerve. It also has been shown in studies to affect, again, more in appetite. In addition to the hypothalamus, the vagus nerve is critically involved in the control of feeding by transmitting signals arising from the upper gut to the nucleus of the solitary tract. Now, among the peripheral mediators, there's something called cholecystokinin, or CCK, which is a peptide hormone in the GI tract and in the system that helps us digest fat and protein. And it's the key peptide involved in generating the satiety signal via the vagus. So CCK is implicated in the control of food intake and more specifically, the reduction in food intake. This can also be an issue for people who have trouble losing weight or gaining enough. Leptin is also another one, a hormone that helps maintain normal body weight. Leptin resistance gets tired. Leptin resistance causes you to feel hungry and eat more even when your body has enough fat. And therefore, leptin and CCK interact synergistically to induce short-term inhibition of food intake and long-term reduction of body weight. The interaction of these two hormones with the vagus nerve has been shown to reduce short-term food intake, and it's conceivable that malfunctioning of these signaling molecules may result in eating disorders. Studies show vagus nerve stimulation as a potential adjuvant to behavioral therapy for autism and other neurodevelopmental disorders. And this one says, vagus nerve stimulation is an FDA-approved therapy that is safe and effective in reducing seizure frequency and duration in individuals with epilepsy. Individuals with neurodevelopmental disorders often exhibit decreased vagal tone, and studies indicate that VNS can be used to overcome an insufficient vagal response. Multiple studies have also documented significant improvements in quality of life after VNS therapy in individuals with neurodevelopmental disorders. So this is very, very encouraging. There are some simple techniques that you can do at home. You don't have to go to a therapist or have anybody, and pay anybody to do it. You can just learn them at home. And I've even got a couple of tutorial videos I'll be linking to again in today's show notes, which will be at naturallyrecoveringautism.com/200. So stimulating the vagus nerve assists in many systems and chemicals in the body. It helps the pituitary, which is involved in hormonal balance and mood. And furthermore, the stimulation of the vagus nerve assists in increasing a neurotransmitter called oxytocin. Now, oxytocin influences much deeper connection and bonding with others. It increases our ability to trust others, helps with sleep, and can calm anxiety. And these are, of course, all key symptoms in children with autism. The vagus nerve can be retrained to regain balance, and this takes some time, but with patience and consistency, it can happen. Of course, again, I'm always going to say we need to work with the underlying root causes, but as we do this, we can continue working to stimulate the vagus nerve. So here are 5 ways you can do that at home. One is simply to massage the vagus nerve. Now, there are a couple of different branches. My background is craniosacral therapy, so it comes in very handy a lot while I'm doing any work with autism. But it's the branches of the vagus nerve that you can massage on the head that help stimulate. One is at the very back of the neck, at the base of the occiput, the bone at the back of your lower portion of your head, right where it meets the soft tissue, that lowest bone there. That's called the occiput. Well, right underneath the occiput, again, where the bone and the soft tissue meet, you can massage that area just very gently, very, very gently. Doesn't take a lot, and it will stimulate the vagus nerve. That's one of the big branches that comes out there. Has a lot to do with respiration, with digestion, and again, calming. There's another one that's just behind the ears, and you can just very, very gently. Now, again, from my background with cranial work, the temporal bones are around the ears, and they're very easily destabilized. Again, another reason why they can pinch, the vagus nerve can get pinched. Also, just as a side note, the vagus nerve, the occiput, bone I just mentioned at the back of your head, is the most destabilized bone during childbirth. So often kids can even be born with their vagus nerve pinched. You see this a lot with a baby that has, chronic, uh, eating issues, or any digestive issues, or fights eating, or has heightened anxiety, won't stop crying. These can be part of the reason why. So while I mention this, the behind the ear part is that those temporal bones around the ears are easily destabilized. So you want to be very, very gentle. And I'm going to offer a brief tutorial video on 2 craniosacral holds that you can do at home. And you can find that video at naturallyrecoveringautism.com/CS for craniosacral. And in that video, please pay attention to how I say to be very, very light and gentle with the things you're doing, especially with the temporal ear pull. But by doing those 2 things, not only are you helping the cranial bones and to calm the system, but you're also stimulating the vagus nerve. So that's a fabulous thing to do. And I used to, have to do it. My son wouldn't always hold still for me to do cranial work on him. So I would wait till he was asleep at night, and I'd crawl into his bed and straggle, just, up again above his head. I would sit and reach down and work on him while he was asleep. So whatever you can works for you, but you could, your child will probably enjoy, especially the back of the base of the neck, just a little gentle rub, a little massage that's going to feel good to them. So most kids are going to be okay with you doing that to them, at least while they are awake. The next is tapping acupressure points to assist emotional balance. And I did a whole podcast episode on this, number 120, in the past. I'll link to it in the show notes. And in that, there's also an image of the tapping points there on that page for you. And then you can go and look at those and hear more about tapping, because tapping is, it's really pretty amazing. It's been successfully used with war veterans for PTSD. It's used for anxiety, insomnia, depression, and even physical pain. And the area there are different tapping points, but the area just below your collarbone on the front of your, upper portion of your chest will really help stimulate the vagus nerve. And you just, can tap on that. I like to use 4 fingers and on both sides with both hands at the same time, and tap maybe about 10 times or so. And you can teach your child to do this to themselves if they're willing or able. And there's another one, of course, we can never forget about deep breathing. Really deep breaths inhaled, and then deep breathing exhaling. This can calm the vagus nerve, and we never want to underestimate its ability to calm when we use breathing techniques. So deep breathing, especially 3 good deep breaths, can really have a difference on your central nervous system and the vagus nerve. Another one that's kind of nice, the 4th, is laughter, singing, humming, blowing, teeth clenching, of course, gently, or gargling. Now, interestingly, the back of the base of your neck, where the occiput meets the soft tissue that I mentioned, is one of the areas that is stimulated when we clench our teeth, blow, laugh, sing, or hum. If you place your hand on the back of your neck in this spot and do any of these activities, you can actually feel that area kind of tense up a little bit, and move. So it's doing that naturally as you're, even speaking, we're triggering it. So the movement stimulates the vagus nerve branch right there and can be very, very helpful. Exercise, any movement of the body is beneficial. Do not underestimate the power of exercise for stress reduction, for yourself as a parent, and our kids need to get out of the house, into nature, and move their bodies. Pent up adrenaline that builds up from the fight or flight response being stuck on will build up and make it much harder for your child to relax. Sometimes you might notice, they can become really aggressive or even violent, maybe even tear apart their bedroom or something. Sometimes it's a way for them to get out this pent up anxiety and stress in them. So going and burning off steam outdoors in an appropriate area. Pull-up bars are great. The most parks have them. Anywhere that they can get out, and especially I'm big on nature, is very, very important for them. So those are 5 things that you can do at home that are pretty easy to do. Also, some foods that are helpful are things like ginger, Himalayan sea salt, bitters, which also help digestion in the nervous system, artichoke, milk thistle. So there are a few things there. I find ginger is very, very helpful. And of course, again, we need to be working on the underlying triggers because there's candida, parasites, mold biotoxins, Lyme, autoimmune issues like PANS triggered and staying in the on position, right? Because that vagus nerve won't turn off. So the immune system is constantly being triggered. Toxins of all kinds, including heavy metals, other food triggers they might not be aware of, especially like histamines. Histamines are a really big one. They can cause vagal nerve disruption. They can cause your body to go into this allergic fight or flight response, cause heart palpitations, trouble with sleep, and anxiety. I also mentioned the occiput at the back of your neck, occipital subluxation, meaning the bone is out of balance. So a quality craniosacral therapist or quality chiropractic that knows pediatric work can really be helpful for these. I'll link to those some episodes I've done on those in the past in the show notes as well. And of course, I can help. I never want to leave you hanging. I can help you work with all of these in a very important sequential order, because we need to support the body with detoxification first, because our detox pathways aren't ready to just be thrown into a detox protocol. Okay, their bodies have to be supported and strengthened. Then we need to go in and give them more, some binders to help sop up the toxins, some support supplements to strengthen before and reducing some of that inflammation before we go and target some of these pathogens and start, killing things that are going to have a more troublesome outcome if we do that before the body is ready. So I want to help you work with all of them. And I'm also going to be teaching a free live event soon. So if you're not already on my email list, please be sure to do that now so that you're notified when we open up registration. And both my free food guide or my craniosacral video that I mentioned here can both do that for you. They'll put you on the email list as you get those resources for yourself. And the links to both of these, again, are in the show notes, along with other resources I mentioned in this episode, which, again, can all be found at naturallyrecoveringautism.com/200. And please, if you would, share this with anyone you know who could benefit from it. And if you take a moment to leave a review for the show, I would greatly appreciate it too, as it helps others who need these resources to find them more easily. And we can help everybody in our community to get the resources they need. The vagus nerve is one of the most searched topics on the internet. It's very, very important to know about this, and especially for kids with autism. And then these things can be worked with and should be worked with right from the beginning or anytime. So I hope this has been helpful for you today. I appreciate everything you do for your child. And again, take care, and I look forward to seeing you next time.